Hi, and welcome to Art and Bible. I'm Jim Pence, and we're going to be drawing a picture out of the book of Exodus today. Now, I'm going to go through the supplies that we'll need. You're going to need something to draw on. I've got a sheet of black pastel paper. You can use construction paper, and it doesn't have to be black. I like drawing on a really dark surface a lot of times, particularly if I'm using black light, because I want the colors to pop. So I'm working on a black surface. If you have other colors of construction paper, have some fun. But choose a color that's going to have some tone to it. Don't work on white paper. And then I've got quite a few different colors of pastel that I'm going to work with. I'm going to bring over my collection here. Pastels, you can't blend colors quite like you do paints, and so the way to get different colors is just to buy more colors. And I've got a bunch of different sets of pastels here that I've bought, and none of these are particularly expensive. You can buy them in sets up to 64 sticks, and again, these are not just great expensive pastels. You can find these for a few dollars at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, or order them online. But these are the colors I picked out for this drawing. I've got two colors of fluorescent chalk up here, a red, kind of a fiery red, and a yellowish color. I've got white. I've got a light gray, sort of a medium gray. I've got black. Got a light green, dark green. This is sort of a dark peach. Actually, it really should kind of go right here. Let me rearrange those a little bit. So I've got a dark peach and a light peach. Up here, I've got sort of a yellow, dull yellow ochre. This is sort of a sienna, kind of a reddish brown, not so reddish brown, kind of a light brown there. And then I've got a red, and I've got a very dark brown. I really ought to put the dark brown up there with the other ones. So those are the colors I'm going to work with. We're going to draw a picture based on Exodus chapter 3, where Moses goes to the burning bush, and where God reveals himself to Moses at that bush. What an amazing thing that must have been, to be there and to see what Moses saw and to hear the voice of God. So that's the theme of our picture today. Now I have two other things that I didn't mention. I've got this is just a pastel pencil, and I've got a dry baby wipe that I'll use for smearing and sometimes cleaning my fingers off. I'm going to just draw a real simple sketch in. My paper is a little bit large here, so it's going to kind of go out of the picture a bit, but I'm going to draw in just some lines, real simple line drawing. And this is going to be sort of the side of the mountain here, because we're going to draw where Moses goes up right into the mountain. And I'm going to draw sort of a ledge, maybe slash road coming around the side of the mountain there. You can draw along with me if you want. Okay, and I'm going to just kind of leave it at that point. And then I'm going to continue on with another line that's going to be that ledge continuing on down. And then out here in the distance, I'm going to throw in a couple mountains. And then we'll just do some crossing lines like this to give us some of the desert or the land in between. And then we're going to draw Moses. Now, figures can be challenging, but they don't always have to be in great detail. I'm going to move this chalk out of the way so I can get my hand in here. And we're not going to do Moses in great detail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw him from the back, and I'm going to do kind of a semicircle here, and then I'm going to come down, because Moses was a shepherd. So I doubt, if this was in the desert, as it was, that he's running around bareheaded. So he's got a head covering here, and it's trailing down his back. And then we're going to just pull his shoulders out just a little bit, like that. And we're going to come down like that. And then we're going to put Moses' rod here. Just remember, that was very important when God appeared to him. God would tell him something about his rod that would change forever what Moses was able to do for God. All right, now we've got Moses kind of sketched in here. Now we're going to put the bush in, and I'm going to put the bush right about here. And I'm just going to draw sort of a circle-y shape with almost kind of like a big cloud cotton ball. And that's where our bush is going to go. So that's a real simple line drawing that is just going to give us something to work with as we start our picture. Now, we're going to start, first of all, to draw our distant mountains. And those distant mountains are going to be kind of a dark gray. And I'm just going to come in here like this. I'm using the side of my chalk right now, and I'm actually not even completely following the lines that I laid in there. I just want some of those kind of craggy mountain shapes in the distance. I'm going to use my finger, smooth that out just a little bit. Stay away from the edge so that you don't blend it too much. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to come back in with some white. Let's add some highlights onto those mountains. Just like that. Just to add a little white in to give us some highlight. And that will be all we'll need to do for the mountains. Okay, for our distant land here. Now, again, this is a desert, and ideally it should be a kind of a desert sandy color. I'm preferring to go green here, and the reason I am is because I'm going to be using a lot of brown up here in the foreground, and I want to get a little color variation. So you know, when you're drawing, you have a little bit of artistic license. You can kind of have fun with it a little bit, and it doesn't have to be exactly the way it would have been if you were really there with Moses. I'm just going to fill in a little bit of this closer up color here. Okay, just to give us the feel of that distant land. I'm going to throw in a little bit of highlighting just at the tops of the hills. Okay. There we go. Now, I'm going to save the bush for last. So let's come in and let's take some of our darker brown. Again, I'm going to be using this is sort of the reddish brown. I'm going to use the side of the chalk or the pastel. I'm going to come down here. Just come in. Don't worry too much if you get a little bit over Moses. And then I'm going to come down here too and draw in some more here. Okay, and again, very softly, I'm going to blend just a little bit. Now, you notice as I drew, I left a lot of the dark of the paper showing through, and there's a reason for that. Because I want the shadows. I'm taking sort of my middle or my kind of light brown now. I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw more lines with this one. But I like to have the the black of the paper show through, because that gives me a lot of my shadows that I wouldn't have, or that I'd have to draw in otherwise. And here they're just already there. Okay, and there's no rhyme or reason. I'm just kind of throwing in lines here to just give us a feel of kind of a rugged, rugged mountainside terrain. Now, again, I could come in here for the surface of this little pathway and come in with a darker brown. I've got to use a different color because I want it to be distinguished from the side of the mountain. But I'm also going to bring in a little bit of the gray. And you notice I'm kind of following the direction of the path. I'm doing that to give us a feel that this is the way that the path is going. It's going around that end of the mountain. Maybe showing a few ruts and stuff here. I'm going to press a little harder on the edge so that we've got a little bit more definition. Okay. So far, so good. Okay, now I'm not blending a whole lot when I'm laying these highlights in. I'm leaving those pretty much as is. Okay, now I'm going to draw the bush next, or at least part of the bush. I'm going to use that same green, so I've got to be a little careful because I want it to stand out more, and I'll show you what I'm going to do in just a second. Here I'm just going to put dots down rather than just color it in. And then I'm going to take my lighter green, kind of a yellowish green, and again I'm going to add some highlights. So Moses is coming along, and it says in Exodus 3 that he came to Horeb or Sinai, the mountain of God, and he sees something. Well, let's get Moses going here. I'm going to give him a red robe. He almost certainly would not have been wearing a red robe, but again, I want a little bit more color here. Red and purple were very expensive pigments, and so a shepherd would not have been wearing red. But again, we're going to have a little artistic license here. So I've got his robe. Again, I'm leaving some dark so that we're going to have the folds of the robe there. And I'm just going to kind of pull that down, blend over just a little bit. I'm going to take some of my light peach and just kind of hit the edges of it, get a little bit of highlights. Not a lot, just enough to give a little bit of variety there. And I'm going to use white for Moses' head covering here. Again, I'm not going to just color it all the way in, but I'm going to let the black of the paper help me get a little definition here. So Moses is coming up the mountain, and he has his shepherd's rod with him. And I'm going to draw that. I'm going to put black here, or this is black. A little black here just to strengthen that where the tie goes around to hold the head covering on. Okay, now I'm going to use black, and I'm going to, again, kind of come in and eliminate that extra color that got over the rod. I'm going to come back in again with a very dark brown that is now going to give it a little bit more substance, and maybe just a hair or two of the lighter brown. So Moses has come up and he sees this bush. And the amazing thing is the bush is burning, but it's not burning up. You know, when you see something on fire, you see the fire consume it. But I'm going to take my fluorescent chalk and I'm going to throw some flames in there. And the places that I left black are going to be the places where the fire is. And I'm going to let it come up, just kind of pull up, give your arm or your hand a little twist as it goes up there. And then I'm going to throw in a little bit of yellowish fire. And Moses sees that bush that's burning and isn't consumed. And he says, I've got to go over and look at this. And when he sees that, I'm going to blow it there a little bit. God speaks to him out of the bush. And God calls him and he tells him to take off his shoes because he's standing on holy ground in the presence of God. Let's add a little bit of fluorescent highlighting to show that light from the bush reflecting off of Moses. And maybe a little bit on the side of the mountain here and on the path, because we're seeing that light reflecting. And Moses talks and argues and debates with God, and he says, well, if I go and they ask me, what is your name, or what is the name of the one who sent you, what am I supposed to tell them? And God says, I am that I am. And thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you. What a great passage of scripture and a fun picture to draw. I hope you will try this out. If you look below, you'll see links to where you can get some of the supplies necessary. And be sure to click and subscribe to our channel. Also check out See the Light's website. And you might want to look at one of these other videos for ongoing art projects every week. I'm Jim Pence with See the Light, and we'll be back next Monday with another Bible and art video. Thank you so much.